All right, we officially have an aquarium now. This is no longer just a wooden box. It's a wooden box that has a purpose. Um, if you haven't seen part one, I highly advise you check that one out first. It's all about how we built the structure. This one's all about sealing it and how we got to this point. So yeah, let's jump right into it. All right, guys, I need to sand the inside of this tank, so I need to cover up the fish tanks out here and my solar stuff. This is what keeps the fish house going. I definitely don't want anything getting inside that inverter. It was extremely expensive and we wouldn't be able to keep this place going without it. I kind of doubled up on the safety factor of the dust here. I covered up everything, including the tank itself, to keep all the dust contained. And then I even went a step further and hooked my shop vac up to the sander. And I think honestly I would have been good with just the shop vac itself. Like it did a really great job of collecting all that dust. So yeah, maybe the plastic wasn't necessary. This is the finished product of sanding. You got a nice smooth surface. The only thing that's really filled in is the actual screw hole itself. We're gonna vacuum everything out of here now and wipe it with a damp rag. Alright, so if you're like me, this is the part where your wife gets mad. I'm gonna use my kitchen towels, get them damp, go through, wipe this whole tank out. And that's just because there's so many fine little dust particles that you're not gonna get a good bite into this wood if you don't go through and wipe it out. I'm just gonna throw this fan in there, let it air out for an hour, just to air on the safe side in case anything is damp. I don't want to try to get it fiberglass to stick to it. We're gonna actually make this thing start holding water. We're gonna fiberglass all the seams of this thing. It's a highly debatable topic whether you should do the whole thing or just the seams. I find it only necessary to do the seams. And that being because if you look at any plywood build, what is the weakest part of it? It's always the seam. I've never seen one leak in the center of a panel. It's usually always this front edge right here. So yeah, we're gonna cut up some 2-inch strips of fiberglass cloth. I've seen people use mat. I've always used cloth and had great success with it, so let's get doing that. When you're doing this, I would make sure nobody is home, especially if you're doing this in your home. This stuff is extremely nasty. I went and bought one of these chemical respirators. Gonna open up all the windows, keep this place aired out with the fan. What I'm gonna be using today is this Bondo liquid resin. I've had great success using this. It's available at any of your major hardware stores like Home Depot, Lowe's, Menards. I've seen people use some cheaper stuff, but I don't want to run out in the middle of a build and have to wait for it to get shipped to me. And I know this stuff works really good. It's tried and true. So yeah, this is the stuff I like to use. So I'm just gonna go through and test fit everything, make sure I have enough cloth cut before I even start the resin because time is of the essence with this project. If you don't want to sand in between coats of fiberglass resin, and I did not want to, I just wanted to keep going. So yeah, having everything pre-cut and ready to go is really important here. When it comes to doing the actual resin part itself, I'll be honest, I'm far from an expert on it. It is an actual skill set. I personally like to just go heavy my first time, let that wood soak in as much as possible, and then come back and keep filling in the cloth as it soaks it up, because you want it pretty damp so it doesn't get air pockets in it. And don't cheap out on the respirator. Honestly, just go to Harbor Freight, Menards, whatever. Get you a chemical respirator. That made all the difference with this build. Like I used it, or I didn't use it on my first build because I really didn't know what to expect. I thought opening all the windows would be enough. This stuff is strong. Like you'll feel dizzy if you don't have that respirator on. It's terrible. With that respirator, honestly, I was pretty comfortable during this whole build. The biggest thing was you're just in a rush because that fiberglass resin does cure quickly. I just wanted to show you me actually putting one of the layers on. Like I said, I like to go heavy there, let all the wood soak it up, give it a second, put the cloth down, then come back and keep putting more resin on it. And that's just because I don't want it to have air pockets on it. I don't want to have to come back and cut out a bunch of spots. I'd rather use a little bit of extra material than have to do the spot twice. What a mess this was. It's far from pretty, but we're not looking for looks, we're looking for strength. Gonna let this stuff cure, sand it down, and we should be ready for epoxy. So it's been a few days. I've been letting this fiberglass resin sit up. It's finally time. I'm gonna take it, sand it down. It's very important. We don't want to remove a ton of material. It's more so to scuff it up, just to give something for the epoxy to stick to. But there is some areas, like right here, where it's really high and thick. I'm gonna try to sand that down a little bit, make it almost a little bit more flush. There's some extras toward the top of the cloth that I need to cut off still. And let's see. I know there's some high spots, like right here, if you can see, where the actual cloth is sticking out some. I'm gonna take a razor blade, cut that stuff out, because if I don't cut it out and get it smooth before I try sanding, everything underneath of it is still gonna be a smooth coat, and the epoxy is never gonna stick to it. So it's very important to cut all that big stuff off before we even start. Also, yeah, I think I'm gonna attack this thing is cutting all them big chunks off like I just showed you, then actually physically taking a piece of sandpaper and getting it in that crack right there. Scuffing all that up first, and then I'm gonna take my orbital sander and go around the whole tank with it. Alright, so if we actually take a look at the pond shield instructions. For fiberglass, sand with 60 grit. If possible, clean the sand surface with an automotive wax and grease remover. So I'm going to be using this. It's Duplicolor grease and wax remover. Removes oil, road tar, grease, wax, and bugs. The big thing why I want to use this one is it says on the back, removes all those things from any surface without leaving a residue. This thing had me super worried about using an automotive wax and grease remover because I was scared it would leave some sort of a residue, but I guess seeing that on the label is reassuring. So we're going to go through, we're going to wipe all these edges off. Something to keep in mind here, just swap your rag out more frequently than you would think you would need. Yeah, the cleaner the better. Keep picking up all that material, get a better bond. I got this thing vacuumed out, wiped out. We're going to be ready for epoxy in the morning. This wax and grease remover actually potentially saved me from a leak. Kind of when it gets wet, puts this shiny coat back on it after sanding. And there was a couple spots on the edge that there was a void, like an air pocket. And this thing, like you can see it plain as day when you put this grease and wax remover on. So I cut them out. I'm not really too worried about them. We're just going to fill them in with epoxy. It's not that big of a deal. As long as 99% of the rest of it is good. And that's my big thing about epoxy or fiberglassing the whole tank, dude. Like, you're just asking for trouble. Like, fiberglassing things is a true skill set. They have machines that are thousands of dollars that do this, or not machines, but like equipment, like a sprayer and a chop mesher. Like, I've looked into building fiberglass tanks, and they have a whole layout with thousands of dollars worth of equipment to do that. Trying to do that DIY is just, I don't know, to me it's not practical. You're just asking for trouble. So I like to keep it simple. Just do the seams. That's the only part I'm really trying to strengthen up. The epoxy is going to soak into the wood and make that waterproof. So I don't know. To me it's good. I've done it before. I know it works. And I'm just going to keep following that method. Just keep it simple. So I just want to show you guys everything that I use to be epoxy ready. We got about 5.5 gallons here of the pond shield. I got a 4-inch roller. I went with a 1/4-inch nap, lint free. That's huge. You don't want the fibers getting stuck in the epoxy, so lint free is a must. And I wanted to go as small as nap as possible, so that epoxy isn't soaking into a thick roller. Um, I got this scraper. I think this thing for $2 is gonna be huge to get all the pond shield out of these cans. What else? What else? We got this edger. This thing's gonna be two different colors. I'm thinking the back is gonna be all black, and then the bottom's gonna be tan to match the sand because the rays blow it all around, and I don't know. It kind of looks ugly in the when it's one huge black tank and you got sand on the bottom, and then there's just patches of black everywhere from the ray blowing it around. What else? We got some paint sticks. Unfortunately, had to buy these because I didn't get the epoxy from the store, so you don't get free ones. The drop cloth. This is huge. I still have blue epoxy on the floor in my house for my other build. Like once you get this stuff on the floor, there's no return. Some paint brushes, a little roller container, some of these ratio buckets. These are going to be huge. I bought some shoes just for this build. These were on the clearance rack. Uh, I got them a size down, so hopefully my feet are squeezed in there nice and tight, so even when the bottom's tacky, they don't slip off. Because this thing's so big, I'm gonna have to get in there and do like the second, third, fourth coat while the bottom is still tacky, because there's no way to do a tank this big from the outside. Yeah, we got the 91% isopropyl. This is gonna thin that epoxy out, and some gloves. I just wanted to take some time and show you guys some cured pond armor. This was just in the bottom of a paint tray that I peeled up. This is why I love pond armor so much, because it actually has some flex to it. It doesn't dry rock hard like some epoxies do. Obviously, if you pull hard enough, it's gonna tear, but with wood, with it absorbing moisture, it's constantly going to be flexing depending on the humidity in the room. So I want something that's going to move with it within reason. Obviously, any drastic moves, it's going to crack or tear apart. But I've used some epoxies that are just dry like a rock, and any movement, they're just going to crack. So yeah. Pond Shield's actually super easy to use. It's 2 cups part A, 1 cup part B, and an 1/8 cup alcohol. I am going to use the alcohol because it thins it out and makes it easier to spread. But for this project, I tried to get as many of these 1.5 quart kits because actually, believe it or not, it's cheaper to buy the 1.5 quart than it is to get the 1.5 gallon kits. And these will also, I'm using so much of this stuff, I'm just going to mix one whole kit together and not have to sit there and measure it out like I will with these 1.5 gallon kits. So yeah, I'm excited. We're finally to that point. This thing should be coated today. The alcohol helps a ton with actually spreading this stuff out. Um, the application's super straightforward. Just let the roller kind of tell you when you need more. Don't try to thin it out as much as possible. Alright, so we're one coat in. I'm actually pretty happy with coverage. It took about an hour and a half. This absolutely sucks, but I don't know. I'm pretty happy with coverage. I was gonna do 4 coats, but I'm gonna see how the second and the third one goes. I might just do 3 because I think I did 3 on my last build, and this one is covering just as good for the amount of kits I'm using on it. This took 5 1.5 quart kits to coat the whole tank, so I'm gonna use a 1.5 gallon of tan, see what that does, and if that looks good, I think I'm just gonna put the last finish coat on it and not do 4. Um, I was able to lay all the seams down extra heavy, and I put a thin coat on where the wood's at, and you can see on the wood it's soaking in nice, just how you want it. I did go heavy on the seams though because it's fiberglass. It's not going to soak into it. That's why you sand it, because you're more so just bonding it to it. All right, we are getting to the point to where it is still tacky, but not coming back up. So I guess this is my cue to put the second coat on. Full disclosure, guys, I did end up doing 4 coats on this thing. I know I keep saying 3, but that was pre-recorded. I decided after the fact to just do the 4th one because the more this stuff dried, the more blue that started showing through. So I don't know. As cheap as I wanted to be on it, I decided to add that 4th coat in. It was worth it. Finally, I'm done epoxying this thing. Super happy with how it turned out. The bottom isn't perfect. Started to run out of tan, so there's a couple little patches, but I tried using that edging tool. Kind of sucks, to be honest with you. Like, it almost pushes it up on the side of the tank, so try to get it as close as I could just by using the roller, because I like the way it looks, I guess, with a little bit of black on the bottom compared to tan on the sidewall. Um, yeah, I'm happy with how it turned out. Some of you guys might not like the tan, but when I get some sand in there and some river rocks, some driftwood, I don't know. You'll see this thing come together and you'll appreciate why I put tan on the bottom. I was able to find these panels on Marketplace, secondhand. Somebody was going to use them for a project and didn't end up following through with it. So they're brand new panels. They're 1-inch cast acrylic. Making sure they're cast is extremely important. A cast is way stronger than extruded. And how you tell usually is the paperback, like the brown paperback, that is usually cast. And if you get like a colored, like a blue or a red, it's almost more like a film on the back of the panel. That is 90% of the time extruded. So these are 96 inches long, 48 inches wide. We actually only need it 37 inches tall for the tank. So we're going to cut these bad boys down and use the scraps for the filtration. That's another project. I'm going to make a whole video on the filter in this thing. So yeah, let's get started. So to cut acrylic, you're going to want a fine tooth blade. This is 140 teeth. The more teeth, the better usually. They'll be labeled for plastic. I usually use my table saw for stuff like this, but if you didn't see in the last video, I broke the wheel on it, so I'm not going to try fighting these sheets on a broken table saw. So I went and borrowed this from a buddy. It's just a cheap tool shop circular saw. I want to use that over my wireless one because this thing, it's going to keep consistent RPMs, and that, I don't know, if the battery starts dying, it's going to start slowing down, and I don't want to risk that during this because you want a steady feed and a steady RPM when you're doing this, because if it starts to actually fight to cut, you're going to start heating up the acrylic, and I don't want to try melting it. I took some foam that I had on hand and cut it and slid it on the opposite side of the panel. That way when I'm actually cutting, it's supported, the excess part. You don't want it sagging because it's going to put a bind on that blade if so. And then that's just going to even make it fight harder to get through that acrylic and start heating it up. You don't want to heat this up at all. You want nice chips to be coming off. You don't want it to be stuck to the panel itself like it's forcing and heating up. Cutting acrylic, ain't much to it. It's actually pretty easy. Fine tooth blade and let that saw do the work. Don't force it. You'll be a-okay. Don't overthink it. I got most of the paper peeled off. I'm going to get these things set inside the tank. I'm going to lay a blanket down, put them in here, get them fitted in place to see, I guess, how much overhangs on each side, and then tape them off and sand them. I'm also going to sand this inside part just to get a good adhesion with silicone. Got the first piece in there. I'm not going to lie, that was exhausting. This thing's so freaking heavy. So I'm going to get some clamps and clamp this thing in place, tape the outside of it, get a good spot to where I should actually be sanding on the acrylic, and silicone this bad boy in. Alright, so we got the window in place. About 1.5 to 2 inch on each side. It is a little like, it's not completely square because the bottom is not level. So I'd say like on the bottom over here we have 2 inches, and then it goes up to about 1.5 inches at the top. and vice versa. We got 2 inches at the top over here and an inch and a half at the bottom. So I don't know. I'm happy with it still. I'm not gonna mess with anything else. Let's just tape it off, get it in place. Got the window all scuffed up. I gotta wipe it down with some alcohol. I just went around it with some 60 grit sandpaper. Give something for the silicone to actually adhere to, because it does not adhere to just straight up plastic itself very well. And I went around and scuffed the edge of the epoxy as well, because just to give it an actual mechanical bond, not rely on the adhesive to stick to it, because this is like a really smooth, buttery surface for the most part, so it'd probably just peel right off if I didn't do this. So I'm gonna wipe this with alcohol and silicone it in. Scary. We might actually have a tank by the end of the day. Got my boards cut, some foam pieces to put against it. I'm gonna be using this ASI RTV silicone. I mean, silicone's a highly debatable topic. People say the stuff at the hardware store, like just plain old 100% silicone's the same, but I don't know. I've always used this aquarium grade stuff. Uh, I don't know. It's just not something I'm willing to risk. I know this stuff works. I actually gave away my last piece of glass from my old plywood tank with the whole front wooden frame of it because I could not get it off. It adhered so well. So I know this stuff's strong. It works. That's what I'm going to go with. I normally have help installing these windows, but I guess it's the first time for everything. So let's see how this goes. Doing it by myself. It's very important right here to use a zigzag pattern. Like, don't try anything else. Just do zigzag, zigzag, zigzag the whole way around. And that's just because of the way the sealed's going to spread out when you push the boards against it. I'll show you here in a second. But yeah, you're going to want to zigzag to get a nice uh, full seal around the whole window. I just want to show you guys in real time why these boards are actually so important. Just squiggly it is, and it flattens out to one nice seal. As you can see, as soon as you start putting even the slightest bit of pressure on it, that silicone is going to squeeze out and fill in that whole void. And that's just the big reason why you want to use the zigzag, is it puts it spreads that out and creates that 2-3 inch gasket that we want around the whole window. I got the first window in place. So the point is to not, especially with this acrylic, I don't want to put a ton of pressure on it and purposely put a bow in it. I just want the silicone to spread all the way around the edge like it is right now and just create a gasket. So I gotta go to the front, and I kept that tape on because this is acrylic and not glass. So I'm gonna smear and smooth around the edges and then peel that tape off because I'm not gonna be able to scrape it later. I got all the tape off. To me, this is what separates a nice plywood tank from a lot of the other ones I see. Look at that. Nice, crisp silicone line. I see a lot of people just let theirs pull up the edge and just leave it there. Like, oh, that's kind of ugly in my opinion. Taking the extra time and putting the tape on definitely does wonders. There's still a few spots, like I got a little blob up there. I got a little seepage right there. But this is going to save me a ton of time and make it look really nice when I finish the outside and not have them big old globs of silicone hanging out the edge. So I didn't want to bore you guys too much. I just went ahead and stuck the other window in. Look at how exciting this is. We officially have an aquarium, not just a wooden box. I started painting this thing just because that bare wood look, I don't know, was driving me nuts. I couldn't do the top rail yet. We're going to get ready to take these clamps off. And finally, the last step of this build, put these supports on. I'm ready to remove these braces. I don't want to add the top supports to the tank in while they're in, because I want the tank itself to be in a relaxed state, not having all this pressure on the front of it while I'm putting it in. And then when we add water, even more pressure to it. I'm using these 5-inch structural screws. They're pretty thick, 5/16. I think these are going to be plenty sufficient to actually. I wanted to go through two of the front 2x4s and get a good bite on that. This is actually pretty nerve-wracking. Take all your hard work and drill some 5-inch bolts through it. Ugh, almost done. We're officially done with this build. This is crazy, you guys. We're gonna scape this thing next, probably do the filtration after that, and finally stock this bad boy. There's so much room for fish in here. It is crazy. If any of you guys have ever bought an acrylic tank, you know that satisfying feeling of peeling off this paper. Seeing that nice brand new crystal clear acrylic. So we actually have an aquarium now. If you guys enjoyed this, please like, comment, subscribe. Don't be scared to ask questions in the comments below if you're planning to build like this. I wanted to add more detail, but this video is already almost 30 minutes long, and I didn't want to keep dragging the series on. I wanted to move forward with it, get to the scape and the filtration, the fun stuff. So yeah, thanks for watching, and see you guys in part 3. Hopefully we're escaping this thing next.